Hey, what's up guys, Chris Trini here for Chris Productions. Welcome back to another very exciting tutorial. I know I haven't made a tutorial in a while, I think it's been a week or two. I'm really sorry about that, I've just been really busy with a very exciting project that I can't wait to share with you guys. It's actually a short film that I directed. It's shot on Super 16mm film, and we're using this camera, which is just amazing, and we've even built a set, and it's going to be based in the 40s, and it's a bank heist, so it's definitely going to be really exciting. I'll be releasing a behind the scenes look on how we did everything along with the short film very soon. And yeah, so that's been taking a huge chunk of my time. Because I haven't made a tutorial in quite a while, I wanted to get back with you guys and actually show you guys something a little bit more exciting than the usual you know, basic training and how to do basic stuff in After Effects. If you have seen all of my other videos, I think we are ready to move on to some more exciting stuff and some stuff that we've all been waiting for. So to start off, as you can tell by clicking on this video, we're going to be doing some muzzle flashes, and we're going to try to make them as realistic as possible and add as much detail to it as we can. So let's start by importing our footage into our comp area here, or you can just drag it over this little box, and it will create a new composition at the same resolution and settings as your clip. Now this clip is a little bit long, and if you recognize this, this is from my 5,000 subscriber giveaway slash demo reel kind of thing. I don't know. That's what this video is for. And at the end here, if you haven't seen it already, check it out. But I kind of like fire this this AK-47 here. So let's go to that point in time here. So right before I cock the gun. So just about here, we're going to double click on the layer, and we're going to click on this button here that's looks like a begin bracket. So what this is going to do is it's going to set our end point of our clip. So wherever your timeline indicator was at the time where you double clicked on the layer, it will use that as the start of that layer. So let's go back to our composition, and now we have all of this extra room that we don't really need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in my work area just about where the clip ends, and then I'm going to right click on it and say trim comp to work area. And what that did is it pretty much made your composition length the same length as your work area. So now we don't have all that extra room. So over here, I cock the gun, raise it, and then you can see that I start raising the tip of it right about here. One of the first things that we want to do is import all the assets that we're going to be using. So I'm going to go under Finder here, and I'm using Action Essentials 2. And if you don't have it yet, it's definitely worth your money. I suggest you to get it. It's amazing. So we are going to be looking at the muzzle flashes for it here. And there's a few that can work for this. There's this automatic fire muzzle flash from the side that we definitely want. So I'm going to drag and drop it in here. And then if I go back to that folder, there are a few from the front that we also need. What's nice about this is it's kind of a shortcut for extra work, because as you can see, there's a little bit of smoke after each muzzle flash. You know, it's very subtle, but it definitely adds realism to the effect that you're doing. So I'm going to drag and drop that in, and we'll start working with what we have so far. So one of the first things I want to do is, instead of just animating each clip to follow the tip of the gun, what I'm going to do is right click in this area over here, go to New, Null Object. Now I'm going to drag in, we'll start with the side one, drag it above our clip here, and at this point in time, and I'm going to align it with the tip of the gun. And before I do anything to this clip, one of the first things that I'm going to want to do is adjust the anchor point of it. So I'm going to hit Y on my keyboard, bring the anchor point. So go back to my selection tool, and now I can make any adjustment that I want. So I'm going to hit R on my keyboard, bring up scale, and just rotate it to the point that it kind of matches with the direction of the gun. So picture a line going from here and it continues on here. You want it to look like it matches fairly close. So bring it close to the tip, and we definitely want to scale this up. So I'm going to hit S on my keyboard and just scale it up. Now you see, because we've adjusted the anchor point, it's going to scale from this point of the clip, and instead of the center, which would look weird. or it wouldn't look weird, it would just take a few extra steps to readjust every time, so that can get annoying. So that looks maybe a little bit bigger. A good thing to do when you guys are doing any kind of effect like this is to look at the real deal. Go on YouTube, and I'm sure there's plenty of videos of people firing an AK, and also look at its use in movies. I'm saying AK just because that's what I'm using, but you know, whatever gun you're using, look it up of what it looks like in real life and also in movies. Movies can sometimes exaggerate, or it's not an accurate portrayal of what it would be like in real life. But I mean, honestly, 9 times out of 10, if you've seen a gunfire, it's you know, it's going to be in a movie, and your brain is going to automatically associate truth of what it should look like to what it looks like in the movies, rather than what it looks like in real life, unless you know, you have a military background or anything like that. But besides the point, you know, just use plane of reference to get an idea of what this is supposed to look like. Also, when you're shooting this, try to have practical effects to help sell the visual effect. If this side of my face, which is being illuminated by this source of light, if this light was actually flashing and you can sync up the effect with that flashing of light, that's gonna, you know, look insanely realistic. Now we're gonna do something similar to that here in After Effects, where you know, the side of the face and even the gun and the hand and a little bit of the background actually brightens up whenever the muzzle flash occurs. So we're gonna be taking a look, but you know, try to do as much practical as you can. I really didn't at the time of shooting, but you know, that's something you can keep in mind if you have the time. So now that this is aligned pretty decent, we are going to parent this clip, the muzzle flash, to the null that we created previously. So there's two ways of doing this. You can click here and select null 1, or you can use this this little whip tool and grab this null. So you can see that now over here it says null 1. Now if I move this null, you're going to notice that this muzzle flash moves along with it. And before we parent it, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that real quick. I'm going to select none, and before we parent the null, we actually want to line up the null with the tip of the gun as well, and then you can parent it. Again, the reason why we're creating this null is you know, if you want to add more smoke or even more muzzle flashes or whatever the case may be, instead of just reanimating each single clip, you can just parent it to this null object, and any clip parented to that null object will have that same motion. So just a little trick to speed up a little bit of your workflow. So now let's create some keyframes for this null object, and we're going to hit P on our keyboard and Shift R on our keyboard. It's going to bring up the position and rotation. We're going to select these stopwatches, and I'm going to hit Command arrow keys to navigate frame by frame in my timeline. So I'm going to move forward, and you can see that the muzzle flash appears here again. So I'm going to, remember, grab the null and drag it over to the tip of the gun so that it lines up, and then we're also going to adjust the rotation of it so that it matches better. So go forward in time, and then once again, as soon as the muzzle flash appears, line it up with the gun. Maybe just adjust the rotation a little bit. It seems a little bit boring, you know, you're going to have to do this frame by frame, but I mean, the effect, once it's done, it's very rewarding, and it's super cool. So just bear with me. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to speed up this section of the tutorial so you guys don't fall asleep. Okay, the clip ends here, so we need a little bit, we need a few more flashes, and then we're going to end those set of flashes and import our you know, straight on muzzle flashes, but we still need a couple more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, drag it over, and now try to time it consistently. So you see that there's a burst here. Actually, let me fix that real quick. It looks a little weird. Probably needs to be a little bit straight. Okay, so it goes flash, then one keyframe, two keyframes, flash again. So try to keep it consistent when you're duplicating it, so it needs to be one keyframe, two keyframes. See, there shouldn't be a flash there, so we're going to drag it over one keyframe, and then there's a flash. So let's realign this here and match it up. We might actually not even need this extra muzzle, so we can end the clip here. Now the gun moves more head on, and this is where we're going to import our other clip. So we're pretty much doing the same thing, dragging it here, letting it go here. Again, keep it consistent, so we know there's flash, 2 frames of nothing, and then another flash. So this actually works. Now, although the perspective of the actual flash is different, the process is the exact same. So we're going to still line it up with the gun. The anchor point can be left where it is because it's kind of in the center of the muzzle. We're going to scale this up to where it feels about right for you. And then we can actually still parent this to the same null. And then we can go ahead and continue the animation. When this is supposed to be firing here, we're kind of getting a weird perspective. We're getting a perspective where we would still kind of see it from head on, but if you just drag it over there, it doesn't look quite right. So what I did here in the original clip is I actually added 2 layers of muzzle flashes. So I'm going to duplicate this this other layer, the one where it's still from the side. I'm going to duplicate that, move it over in time, and you can even bring this above this layer. It's not there yet, it's here. Okay. Now it's looking like a mess right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to flip this around just like that, and then hit rotation for that layer and just line it up again. So right now this is kind of getting in the way for us to line it up, so we can just shut it off right now, line it up a little bit better, and turn it back on. Now remember that these muzzle flashes are looking really crappy because we haven't changed their blending mode for right now. We can actually do that right away. If you don't see it here, there's a switch down there. Once you select that, other options appear, so you can toggle between 2 different set of options. Go over here where it says normal and set it to add. You can see that it blends in a lot better. You know what, might as well do this while we're at it with all of our muzzle flashes. Set all of them to add. Whenever you're doing anything that's really bright, or an explosion or anything like that, try to set it to add, and 9 times out of 10 it definitely makes it blend in with your environment a lot more. Let's continue moving forward. Okay, so here's another flash. I'm going to reduplicate this layer, drag it over, and now we don't want this to be as extreme, so what we can do is just scale this down, rotate it. Alright, so that's looking pretty good, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm actually going to cut the animation short here. I know I continue firing beyond this point, but I want to save you guys some time. By this point, you get pretty much the basic idea on how to do this. Now we're going to look at a few more things just to add a little bit more detail to this firing. I mean, it's looking pretty good as is, but we want to add some shell casings being ejected from the side of the AK, and also we want to affect the illumination of the room and a little bit on the face and a little bit of brightness on the hands and gun. We're going to go to the beginning of the effect, which should be around here. This is when the first muzzle flash occurs, and we're going to create a new adjustment layer. There's a few things that you can add to this adjustment layer. If you go to your effects and presets, you can add a brightness and contrast under color correction, or you can even apply curves, or you can even use exposure effect. And what we're going to do is we're going to boost the brightness up. We're going to boost the exposure in this case. So there we go. And we can create multiple layers of adjustment layers. So for example, you can have one that just raises the overall ambience of the room. You can see that as I switch this on and off. You can duplicate this. You can just have it affect just the side of your talent's face. You can make different rough masks around each area that you want to be illuminated by the muzzle flash. So we can do even, I mean, you can be as detailed as you want. You can even go in each finger and make it really, really detailed. Um, it can be really rough. I mean, you can even just do something like that. And because keep in mind, these are appearing for only one frame. So you can even do some of the gun. And then once you finish your masks, then add quite a bit of feathering and see how that looks. So this is before, after. So definitely a subtle change here. Another thing that you can do is you can create a new solid. So new solid. Make it a bit of an orangish or yellowish color, something to match your muzzle flash. Click OK, and then what we can do is just create a basic shape like that, and then you want to go ahead and align that with your muzzle flash. You can even rotate it. There we go, and then just feather it quite a bit, just like that, and set it to add. And you can put this above your muzzle flash, or you can even put it underneath it so it affects more of the background. So you can just put it just right above our layer. And you can see that it just adds a lot to the blast of the muzzle flash. And with all of these combined, you're getting a pretty interesting look. And then you would parent the glow that we created with the solid to the null that we created. And then as far as the illumination on your Talon's face or hands or gun, you would actually have to animate the path of each mask to pretty much follow the movement of your actor. So I'm actually not going to do this step because it takes quite a while, and you pretty much get the point. This isn't a must to sell the effect, but it definitely adds all that detail that we really want. So you would have to do this frame by frame, and then you would animate the opacity of this adjustment layer by hitting T on your keyboard, and you would pretty much have it come on whenever the muzzle flash appears, and then you would have it disappear or fade away whenever the muzzle flash disappears. So for now we're going to shut that off. If you guys want to go ahead and do that, you can. This tutorial is starting to get quite long, so I want to try to keep things short. And you would do the same thing for this glow solid. You can see that it's following the gun. A couple of things you might want to do is maybe rotate it along the way, but the same idea that you did with the clips of the muzzle flashes applies to this glow solid that we created. So I'm going to shut that off as well for now. We're going to focus on the shell casings. So you pretty much get the main idea is that all these adjustment layers, you pretty much want to animate the opacity so that they pop every time the muzzle flash hits, and whenever the muzzle flash is not there, you want them to disappear. Alright, so now let's move on to the shell casings being ejected when the gun is firing. So for that, we're going to go back to our Action Essentials pack, and we are going to go under shells, and we're just going to browse through a couple of these. And again, this is where having some references and doing just some basic research can help you a lot on how everything is supposed to look. So import that in. All right, for the shell casings, we are going to just import the clip. And the nice thing about Action Essentials is it comes pre-keyed. So I'm going to go where the first hit happens, going to align it here, then find it where it's matching with the gun, then scale it down to what the size would be. So this is where they're coming out of. So scale it that, then put it right there, trim the clip here, and then animate the position and the scale of this. So click on the stopwatch, go forward 1 or 2 frames, and just animate this shooting out to the side. And actually in this particular case we don't need to animate the scale. You would if the shells are coming towards the camera or away from the camera, then you would have to animate the scale to cheat that perspective. And then one last thing that you want to do is turn on the motion blur for this clip. So if it doesn't appear here, go to that toggle switch button on the bottom here, and you want to find this this kind of circle that has some trails to it. That's the icon in After Effects for motion blur. You want to find it down here, click on that box, and then you want to turn it on on the top here so that you can see what that's doing. Now it almost looks like the bullet has disappeared, but it just has so much motion blur that it's just a bunch of lines right now. So you can see that it starts here and then it's really, really fast. Maybe this is too fast, so we can actually make this last 4 frames or even 5 frames. And notice as stretching this animation out, the motion blur is not as extreme, and we can see a little bit more of the bullet. So let's try to do even 6 frames, and let's RAM preview this and see how that looks. Okay, so it looks like I was having a seizure there, but the bullet is looking pretty good. And now to make a bunch of these, all you would have to do is just duplicate and then move forward in time when the next muzzle flash happens and line that next shell. You may have to alter the position and the rotation of it all, but that's pretty much the main idea. So there we go, we have 2 of them done. If the shells seem to not blend in too well, you can do some basic color correction to the actual shell to match more with the lighting. But anyways, this is not looking too bad, and if you repeat these steps for all the shell casings and you actually have the adjustment layers with the different exposures, flicker on and off with the muzzle flashes, you're definitely going to have a really solid effect. I think what I did in the original example is I added some suppressed fire clips from Action Essentials, and I actually placed them right where the shells are ejected from. So that helps sell the idea that these shells are really hot when they're first ejected by the gun, and it just adds a little bit more realism to the overall effect. Again, I'm really trying to keep this tutorial short and not bore you guys, so I'm not going to repeat all of these steps, but hopefully you get a pretty good idea on how to do this. Anyways guys, I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you did enjoy it, give this video a like and share it with your friends. Comment, let me know what you think, or if you have any suggestions for any future tutorials that you would like to see from me, go ahead and post them in the comment section below. And if this is your first time on my channel or watching one of my videos, please consider subscribing. I make a video every week, and I would love to have you stick around for next week for the next video. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. My name is Chris Trini for Chris Gar Productions. I will see you next time.